Okay, welcome back to Cryptic Corner, a place where we review scary stories across the internet from Reddit's No Sleep or the creepypasta forearms. And we also take a look at some movies if recommended. I know last time we did Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey Part 1, and this weekend we're going to do another movie, which we're going to keep quiet until then. So, today we are reading Ted the Caver, Part 3. This is the actual Part 3. I know in the last video I was saying Part 3 when it was actually Part 2. So, fixing my little mistake there. And when did we leave off? Like I said, because this is the second take, like I said in the first take, I don't really remember. Like, it's been a while since we read the book or read the story.
It's been probably last time was last Thursday, maybe a week.
Somewhere like that, something like that. I know they brought the dog into the cave and the dog got scared. They wanted to put the dog in the hole.
And also, like, there's a part where, like, they heard a scream. They were like, let's get out.
Yeah, they're actually, like, kind of terrified.
All right. Want me to go first, or do you want to go
first? I'll take the first paragraph again, and then you can take the second if your throat's cleared up.
I think so.
All right. Well, without further ado, I'm gonna start. It's amazing what a couple of good meals and a little sleep can do for someone's attitude. Even though we still had memories of the strange noise fresh in our minds, we relit our fire of enthusiasm. The other side of the passage seemed so close. We were sure this would be the day. We got back to the cave and started to work our way down to the hole. Getting back into the darkness of the cave brought back memories of the night before. The sight of the circle of rocks illuminated by our headlamps, the smell of dirt in the air, and the sound we made as we crawled across the rock. Once we reached the entrance of Floyd's tomb, however, we were once again ready to blaze the trail leading to an undiscovered part of the cave. We immediately noted the presence of the breeze blowing out of the hole and the rumbling.
The bullpen sticking out of its hole was an obvious sign where we needed to begin work for the day. B took over where he left off the day before. I took up residence in the same spot I occupied the night before, even though I was already well rested and wanted to start work. B was making the hammer sing with each blow. After a mere 2 or 3 minutes, he let out a cheer, turned to reveal a handful of rock that used to be attached to the cave. He was breathing heavily, but had a big smile on his face. So did I. With the time, the strange noise hadn't been forgotten, and the vision of success captured our attention.
And when we scroll down, we see that the size of the hole has gotten a wee bit bigger. Yeah, it's gotten bigger.
It's growing.
Which, like I've stated before in past episodes, I'm not I'm not an expert on caving, but wouldn't this mess with the structure of the cave, like the foundation and stability?
It'll be fine. Probably.
All right, I'll start again. The lower left-hand corner of the hole had been giving us grief because of the thickness of the wall at that point. We felt that if we could just remove the corner, we might be able to make our way inside. B held in his hand the crumbled remains of the corner. Our excitement consumed us as we examined the hole. I took the hammer and pounded away at the surface of the hole. The idea was to remove the jagged edges that would take their toll on my skin. The size looked right. Now the moment we had been waiting for. Oh boy, are they gonna try and fit their bodies in the hole?
Get in the hole. I cautiously approached the entrance to Floyd's tomb. I decided the best way to enter the small hole was to place one arm over my head, turn my head sideways, and slowly work my way in. I soon determined this was not going to work. The hole was small. If I was to make it in without widening the hole anymore, I was going to have to put both my arms over my head in a diving position, turn my head sideways, and slip into the tomb. Boy.
Oh,
It's pretty tight.
Fuck.
What do you think, Travis?
I hate that image that just went in my mind. Fuck
Hey,
that.
this is meeting. The width of the entrance was the limiting factor. The height was sufficient. The arms overhead position flared my shoulder blades out, but there's still room to get in. Plus, the arms overhead gave me the best squeeze side to side.
Ugh. Ugh. In order to enter straight into the hole, I stood on my feet and bent over to get level with the entrance. My knees were bent and the position was uncomfortable. Sort of a semi-squatting position. Bent at the waist and with arms overhead. Plus, I had to slightly turn my upper torso to the left. In a counterclockwise rotation to negotiate the angle of the entrance. Notice in the last photo the entrance generally slopes to the right. I got my arms through the entrance with minor scrapes. Next came my head. By keeping it turned sideways, I was able to get it in, for the most part, up to my shoulders. When I got to my shoulders, I could feel the rocks touching all over my shoulders and chest. It was not stopping me, but I was definitely scraping many surfaces of my body. I decided to just push through, keeping in mind that I was going to have to come back out eventually. The pain was not too bad, and I was in. Well, my upper body was in. At least I could get a good idea what the tomb was going to be like. I hate this image that I am looking at. This image
Bro, look at
actually sucks.
It looks like the cave's pooping him.
At least he's not like, because I thought he was going to be like bent over. But it kind of looks like they're going up into the area and not down. Yeah. Oh man, I hate that. I'll label this one B.
It's a very nice photo.
It's horrifying. It looks so tight too. My fat ass couldn't fit through that.
I think you probably feel like a child through there.
You can fit
They should have brought.
You can fit a dog through it.
They should have brought a kid.
You bring the dog back too.
Yeah. I'm sure the dog would not mind.
Wow, this is a pretty big one. It's all yours,
I'll
bud.
read it. Yep. Once inside the tomb, I had a few inches all around me in which to position my body. This is the largest part of the passage, and it was conveniently located right at the beginning to crawl. Oh boy, that was the big part of it. That gave me a little room to get positioned to crawl farther into the passage. Inside the tomb gave me a whole new outlook of what was going to be like to crawl through. Even though this is the largest part of the crawl, it was still small. I could move my head around freely, but every direction I turned, I was staring at the wall of solid rock. Yeah.
Fuck that.
When I spoke to B, my voice sounded muffled, like I was talking into a small box. I could rest my chest on the passage floor, but the rocks were uncomfortable. I turned my head to look farther ahead, but I couldn't see past the wall of rocks I had built the day before. Ugh. I'm like tongue-tied. Squeezed towards the end, the passage was closer now. It appeared even narrower. I didn't know if I could squeeze through or not. I knew it would be close. I wanted to crawl farther into the passage. First, however, I had to work to get some of the loose rock that were lying on the passage floor out of my way. I was disappointed to find out that most of the rocks that looked loose were actually attached to the floor. I was hoping to be able to just scrape them out of the way. I had pushed the sledgehammer into the passage before me, so at this point, I used it to push the rock wall we had made farther back into the passage. Then I dragged the sledge back and forth across the floor to move any loose rocks or break up the solid ones. By sliding the head of the hammer under the squeeze, I determined that the narrowest part of the squeeze was about 7 inches high. That's not a lot of inches.
That's pretty small, dude.
Yeah. I figured we had to do some work before I could slip through. The entire time I had my head in the passage, B was just kicking back, listening to my descriptions and progress reports. At some point, he snapped the photo shown above. Thanks, B. Up to this point, the size of the passage was not too big of a deal. I was in an incredibly small passage, but only my upper body was in, and since it was the largest part of the passage, my arms could move freely. I was pretty calm. Then it was time for a push.
Oh boy. I'll take this one and the next paragraph and probably the one after since yours was pretty long. I slid the sledgehammer up as far as I could reach. Since my body filled the entrance, I could not slip the tool out, so it was easier to push it ahead. In order to rotate my hips to the proper angle to enter the hole, I had to lean my upper body on my forearms, use my feet to climb the wall outside the hole, and slowly crawl into the hole. My hips barely fit. Once they cleared the entrance, I could relax a bit and get into position to work towards the squeeze. I decided to try the one arm forward technique to get through. The passage was so narrow that whatever position I started with, I would have to stay through the entire length. There was just no room to move around or change positions. I would also have to turn my head one way or another and keep in the same position. This crawl was tight. Okay, first off, what happens if that is just a dead end? How are you gonna work your way back out? This is
Well,
fun.
they said they saw the other side earlier, remember?
It's just so.
It's like an opening.
It's just so fun.
But yeah, if it like wedges in, then I guess, you know. No. Level
Move-
1.
Oh man. Moving forward at this
tomb.
Moving forward at this part of the passage was relatively easy. I could use my forward arm, left arm, to pull my other arm to push. Oh wait, I read that completely wrong. Hold on. Moving forward at this part of the passage was relatively easy. I could use my forward arm, my left arm, to pull, and my other arm to push. At the same time, I would wiggle my body, trying to arch as much as possible as I could, keeping my chest off the rocks. I tried both ways and determined that I would turn my head to the right. It felt most comfortable. I began to learn things as I went. I determined that a small flashlight in one hand would be nice. Then I could shine it ahead and get a better idea of what I was about to crawl over. This was a difficult maneuver because I had to look overhead. Since I had to look overhead since my head was turned, it became immediately obvious that we were going to have to do some more work removing rocks from the passage floor as I moved along the surface. I was constantly scraping my chest on the rocks. They were sharp and it was painful. Occasionally, I would cause a rock to slide under my chest and actually wedge in between it and the top of the my chest would actually wedge me between it and the top of the passage. I would then have to back up and either try to move the rock to the side with my cheek or use a sweeping motion with my head or back way out and move it with my forward hand. So he would get stuck on rocks at times. Oh god.
That's very wholesome.
My little trip into the passage represents a major milestone in my caving career. When I began caving, I did not feel overly comfortable going through tight spaces. Even the little squeeze at the beginning of this cave was an obstacle to overcome. By pushing myself and forcing myself to try the narrow passage, I have become much calmer about tight spaces still. This passage represents a new benchmark in small spaces. I had not been faced with anything this small. I don't remember having to take off my helmet before now. With this passage, it is mandatory. As I mentioned before, not only do I have to take off my helmet, but I have to turn my head to the side in order for it to fit. I don't like this image, dude. Like, the image that is in my head at the moment, I absolutely hate.
I'm sure it's just okay. The journey into the tomb went like this. Okay, your turn.
What?
So you get the next paragraph.
No, you get this one. You got this.
I know, I'm joking. After I twisted my hips into the passage, I took a few minutes to stop and work out a game plan. Most of the length of my legs were still outside the entrance. They were just dangling in the air. She was still big enough to move my head around, and even move my arms freely into position. is larger than the rest of the passage, but not by not.
Yeah,
Oh my
they-
Christ! But not by much. I did. I was just whipping it. It was like sticking your head in a box. Everywhere I looked, there were rocks, and not too far from my head. Any sound made was muffled and dead. The nearest part of the passage was about 10 feet in. At this point, I was about 3.5 feet in. Sorry, like my brain is like going to inches. And it's not. At about the 4-foot mark, I would have to commit to whatever position I felt comfortable and stay that way until the 12-foot mark, at which time the cave started opening up.
Okay.
I went in with my left arm forward and head turned to the right. He had given me a flashlight that I held in my left hand. As I inched forward, I tried to brush the loose rock away from my left arm. This was somewhat successful, but there were a lot of rocks I missed or could not move. As mentioned, the first bit of the crawl moved along fairly quickly, since there was a little room above me to negotiate the passage. Then the walls started closing around me. I had a few extra inches on each side of me, but the top of the crawl was getting very low. At about a 7-foot mark, I could feel the top rubbing my back as I would arch. After another half foot, I couldn't arch anymore. I had to just push ahead with my toes and pull with my forearm forward. I decided it would be a good time to see if I could back out. I tried it, and it was pretty easy. That gave me a lot more confidence. Still, I had B tied webbing to my feet, just in case he had to pull me out.
I
Oh boy, that was fucking
hate
wild.
this image. I've said
Yeah.
it multiple times. This image fucking sucks. This is terrifying. You would never catch me in a million years fucking doing this. But it literally says last shot before my feet were all the way in. Note the webbing be tied at my request. I hate that. I hate that.
You know
I
what
hate
that
so
reminds me of? It's like
much.
the Wicked Witch of the East, where her fucking toes are like her shoes are sticking out of the fucking under the house. Reminds me of that.
pretty, you want my shoes?
Yeah.
This is awful. I fucking hate this. All right. Next paragraph. My neck was starting to get sore from being cranked to the side. My head was getting heavy, but to rest it, the only option I had was to lay on the broken rocks. It was painful, but I did it frequently. Oh shit.
Bless you.
Fucking yawning, dude. I was staring at the wall to my right. It was a mere 4 to 5 inches from my face. Most of the time, I was watching the wall. Either I had my eyes closed, which I sometimes do when I go through a tight spot, or if the light wasn't shining in a direction that did me any good. It was very quiet in the tomb, other than my own breath. I was breathing heavy from the effort it took to move. Thankfully, the breeze was present and cooled me off. By lifting my head and carefully touching the ceiling from time to time, I could gauge the size of the passage that my body would soon pass through. Much like a cat using its whiskers to gauge the opening in a fence, at the 7.5-foot mark, I could tell things were about to get real tight. It just keeps getting smaller and smaller. Good
I
lord.
know.
While lying in the darkness in a passage deep within a cave, one is in a unique position to ponder. A mountain literally resting on top of me, the entire earth lying below me. One tiny movement of earth, and I would cease to exist, or worse, to recognize the fear shared by Floyd Collins as he lay there trapped for days, within the heart of Mother Earth, incapable of freeing himself from his earthen prison. That is a horrifying quote right there.
Oh yeah.
Oh
You know
man.
about Floyd Collins?
Didn't he get his leg trapped under a rock?
Yeah, and he was like stuck there for like basically like I don't think it was actually a month. Actually, it might have been a month that he was alive.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he starved to death, right?
Actually, I think he died from exposure.
Oh, okay. Picture
like-
yourself. Oh,
Still, it's freaky.
yeah, it's fucking tragic. Picture yourself in my position, lying on your stomach. Your left arm is extended over your head, your right arm is at your side. Having only a few inches in which to move, your arms and hands are sore and bleeding from crawling/pulling yourself across the broken rocks. Your entire body is resting on the rocks. Your neck gets tired of holding your head up off the rocks, so you gently rest your cheek on the rock to rest. Once you start again, you have to push with your toes to scoot your body forward, sliding across the rocks. After moving a few inches, you are breathing hard and have to rest. As you inhale, you feel your back pressing hard against the top of a squeeze. It takes several minutes before you recover enough to press forward. The entire time you are lying there, you think about how you are going to get back and what if. Well, that's pretty much what I was going through at that point in the passage. I decided that this would be a good time to throw in a photo of the squeeze. The photo was actually taken on a different trip, but it shows how tight things were at the point in the passage. Notice my head. Oh, notice my head turned to the side, not by choice, and you have to see I would rest my cheek on the rocks. You can now see how difficult it is to look ahead at how difficult it is to look ahead of me. My arms are pinned to the side. I later determined that it would be the best position. There is virtually no space from the top of the passage and my back height, not for the claustrophobically inclined. I think that's Ted right there. That's your boy Ted.
Yeah, he's worming.
Oh
That's
man.
a very nice picture. Yeah.
Oh my god. Oh no.
Man, he slots right in there like a puzzle piece. You know what I'm saying?
That's awful. No. Dude, I couldn't. I'd have a panic attack.
That'd be pretty freaky.
I'm getting stressed out just looking at this picture. Like it's actually stressing me the fuck out.
Oh yeah, I don't blame you.
Oh no! Why would you do this to yourself? Why? Oh gosh! Here, bud. You can.
Yeah, I'll
the
read
next one.
paragraph too. When I reached the point where my back was rubbing, I could feel with my head and the passage was not getting bigger. I knew I was most likely not going to get through. Still, I decided to give it one more push. If I had been in this position a year ago, I would have been in a state of panic, but not today. I was pretty pumped. I took a few minutes to rest, then went for it. I exhaled completely all the air in my lungs. This caused my chest to collapse enough to scoot forward a few inches. Because it takes so much effort to scoot, I only went a few inches before I had to stop and breathe. As I inhaled, my chest pressed hard against the floor and my back against the top. It took a little longer to get my breath back. Unbelievably, I did it again. Exhale, scoot, rest. Again, only a few inches. Repeat. I took a few extra minutes to enjoy this position. Into this small passage. Wow. Cannot believe how relaxed I was. I tried one more time to exhale and scoot. My back was rubbing too much to continue. Despite the effort, I was psyched. I took several long minutes to lay there and recover from the effort. B has been encouraging me to get the entire time. It's funny to hear him cheer as he saw my shoes go deeper and deeper into the hole. Oh boy.
Oh god. Backing out was. Oh, okay. You can have this one.
I'll do this one. Yeah. Backing out was not too difficult, but it did take some work. I encountered the same obstacles as I went in. After I wiggled my hips out of the hole, which took some time, I had trouble getting my shoulders out. Both arms were overhead at this point. My shirt was getting caught on the rocks, and my shoulders were brushing the sharp rocks. After struggling to find a good position, I gave up and just pulled my upper body out. Scrape! My shirt pulled over my head, and I had some nice scrapes on my shoulders, but I didn't care. To me, this trip was a success. I had to push myself beyond what I thought was possible. I knew at the entrance and looked into the narrow passage I had just been in. The rock wall was now at the 11-foot mark. I had pushed it a little with my forward arm. The smallest point was at the 9-foot mark. We were close. Between the work and the excitement, I was tired. I just sat on the rope bag, grinning. Woo, what a trip.
And these pictures, I don't think I'm gonna post these. I mean, I could,
I think it'd be good.
Yeah,
You can
it's
see the
just
progress.
it's just a progression picture. Yeah, I could
First
put
date
him.
in
I could put
marriage.
him.
I'm sorry.
What's up?
Actually, I got it wrong. Before college and after college.
Ah, I see. I see. Okay. The rest of the journal entry talks about the unusual, our climb out, dinner, trip home, etc. On our way home, we brainstormed and came up with the idea with some ideas that would help us get through. We both invented some tools to remove the rocks from the floor within the passage. We were both very excited by this trip. I from pushing my limits in the cave, and B from his success in climbing out of the cave. This was the first time he was able to climb all the way out without me helping, or without the help of climbing devices, nor my help. It was a personal success that showed the progress he has made since his accident. Pretty cool. I remained amazed that we could easily forget the terrifying moment we experienced just the day before. All had been forgotten, with the strange noise being blamed in our minds on some rational, harmless explanations. And now we are at the next entry, April 7th, 2001. And I think, according to our little scroller right here, we're like, yeah, we're fucking halfway.
Yeah, man, this is, wow, longer than I remember. Alright, prior to going back out to Mystery Cave again, we spent a lot of time preparing. We made a squeeze box, which is a wooden box, the opening of which can be adjusted in size. We could then crawl through the opening and measure to see how tight the squeeze would fit through. From that, we were able to determine that I need about 8 inches in height to get through the smallest portion of Floyd's tomb. That meant we would have to scrape about an inch from the floor of the passage. We also learned that the best position I would need to get through the passage would be on my stomach, with my arms by my side. Of course, my head would be turned one way or the other. That position allowed my shoulder blades to drop to their lowest point. In order to move, I'll push forward backwards with my toes. It sounds difficult, but felt adequate. Later, it proved to work sufficiently.
Okay.
There's a worm. He's a little wormy man.
You want to do 2 paragraphs at a time?
I'll do.
Yeah, so I'll do 2. You do 2.
The second thing we did was to prepare was to construct the tools we invented to work with in the cave. I came up with a clever way to chip away inside the passage without having to climb inside. I had my neighbor weld together several lengths of steel pipe into a mirror that allowed us to take it apart while we climbed down into the tomb. I still had the strength necessary to hold up to a blow from a hammer once it was together. We made our own tips that we could screw into our pipe to reach the area we need to work on. B came up with a cool design for a scrapper using angle iron. He had his neighbor weld together. It proved to be an invaluable tool for scraping and removing the rock. We're both proud of our inventions. I also made a device to hold my drill that attached to our pipe. We ended up not using it since B's scraper device works so well.
Man, look at how happy that fellow is, dude. Look at how happy he is. Let me just save it.
I don't know why you hate Cave so much. Look at that dude. He's such a happy lad. He's having the time of his life.
Yeah, I'm okay with staying out of caves, you know? Here is a picture of B, edited to protect his identity with the pipe we made. I took the picture facing away from the tomb. He is sitting on the rope bag that we used as a bed. Behind him to his left is the passage that leads down to the still water. Behind him to his right is the last drop off before the passage. You can see some orange webbing we used to climb up and down. I took an oath. I made a vow. I would not leave the cave until I had made it through the passage, conquered Floyd's tomb. This would be the trip. It had been a long time since we had been out to Mystery. We had been busy though. We had made a lot of tools we had talked about. It was fun coming up with ideas for tools. Also, we had a squeeze box to determine the best technique for getting through the tight spot. Plus, we knew about how much rock we needed to remove before we could get through. We were excited to get back out to the cave to finish our project. Our climb down to the passage took a little bit longer than usual. We had extra tools to carry. Once we got down to the passage, we immediately got to work using B's scraper tool with the pipe I had made. It worked like a charm. We could hammer the pipe on one end and the scraping tool on the other end and dug into the rock. We could also push the debris all the way through the passage and out of our way. When we needed to measure our progress, we turned the scraper sideways in the passage and observed the clearance. We worked for about 2 hours before I had a desire to try the tomb. I just wanted to make sure I was going to make it through on the first try. B made one more sweep of the passage floor, clearing any loose rocks from where I would be crawling and pushing the wall we had made to the back. I think I read that right. Yeah. To the back of the squeeze. I made preparations for the crawl by fashioning duct tape suspenders to prevent my shirt from sliding around while sliding across the floor. Sliding across the rocks. I went with a flashlight in my hand. Even though my hand would be at my side, I knew I would need it once I got through. As an expression of faith, I did not tie a rope to my feet. I was confident I was going to make it. Finally, I made the attempt.
Oh boy.
Oh, he's making the attempt.
Yeah, he doesn't have the rope tied to his feet. Doesn't have his return anchor. Did you read the part about the journal entry?
No.
Okay, although I didn't mention my journal, you did notice the breeze was back and the rumbling present. Since we didn't do any work to the entrance, I had to go through the same dance routine to even enter the passage. Once I got my upper body through the hole, I shined a flashlight ahead of me to work out a plan of attack. The passage didn't seem any bigger than last time I was there, but most of the work was done deeper in the squeeze. I paused for a few minutes, then twisted my hips to get my lower body in. I slowly inched forward as my entire body slowly filled the passage. Before I was completely in, I got into a position for this push. I dropped both my hands to my side and turned my head to the right. I then began to inch forward. Once my toes were inside the cave, I used them to push forward. To keep from scraping my body, I would walk using my shoulders, knees, and toes. Progress was slow but steady. That was fine by me. A floor or two before the tight spot, I could already tell there was a little more room. Even so, I began to touch the roof of the passage with my back. This time, however, I was able to continue moving forward. I reached the lowest point of the passage and I could tell it was still going to be tricky. Even with the work we had done clearing out the loose rocks, I still felt a sharp pebble dribbling under my chest as I slid along. When I could feel my back brushing the top of the passage in several places, I reverted to my technique of excelling. Before I began, however, I took a mental labor in the passage. I could see the glows of the flashlight as the rays of light managed to squeeze past my bite. I could feel the cool breeze evaporate the drops of dirty sweat on my forehead. I could feel 1,000 sharp edges digging the surface of my skin. I felt the twinge of excitement as I realized that the goal we had set out to achieve weeks ago was about to be realized. This thought alone made me want to keep moving, no matter how tight the passage became. I breathed in and out rapidly for a few minutes, then began. Exhale, scoot, stop to catch my breath. Repeat. After just a few inches of scooting, I could raise my head. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Okay. So I became really vested. I could raise my head off before the squeeze and could tell that the passage was beginning to open up. I relayed this information to B, and we both took a few seconds to celebrate. Hearing the rest of the slide through the passage, B was cheering me on. Virgin Passage and Neil Armstrong territory were the phrases he kept repeating. I was grinning ear to ear. Oh yeah!
Yeah, Virgin Passage!
Virgin no more.
Even though the passage was beginning to get larger, it was still slow going. I had to continue scooting along for another foot and a half before I could slide my arms underneath me to use them to crawl. And at that point, I felt my journey was essentially over. I was able to sit up slightly and move the rock wall we had move the rock wall we had erected several trips ago. Those rocks served as a somber reminder that a little caution would be wise. I shouted back to B that I was through. We both took a moment to congratulate ourselves on our success. B would likely never be able to squeeze through the passage and see what I was seeing, so I gave him a description of what the cave looked like. At this point, I only had my mini mag. Okay, so I could not see very far into the passage. The end of the passage made a gentle right turn and seemed to go on for a ways. I was unable to do anything at this point but sit due to the size of the passage. All the broken rocks we had pushed through Void's tomb were all around me at this point. There was no other signs of human intrusion. I had to wait until B passed me my helmet light to get a better feel for the cave. B used the pole we made to slide me the end of the rope. I then was able to pull my gear through the squeeze. The first thing he sent through was my helmet and light. After I got the light fired up, I was able to see our new section of the cave. Ours. It was an exciting experience to see the results of hours of hard work over the course of several weeks. At this point, we still had no idea what the cave had to offer. The only thing I could see was the passage immediately following the squeeze. It was a narrow passage with a low ceiling. I would easily be able to get through it, but I would have to crawl. I began taking pictures so I could show B. And this picture right here is also just fucking terrifying.
It's a little thing that leads to inky blackness.
Yeah, it's just, oh man. People who do this, y'all are crazy, alright? Y'all cavers, people who are like, you know, infatuated with caves, like, ooh yeah, I'd like to slide into one of those. Y'all are fucking weird and terrifying. And I will never join you on a caving experience, ever.
Fair.
Scare me.
Really scary. I asked B how far he thought I should venture into the cave. Oh, in light of the strange events that occurred, I was just reading me like scroll too far down. For the first time, he too toned down his enthusiasm as he remembered the noises. Slid the pipe through the tomb with a loosened tip on them. He said I could use it as a weapon if I ran into an animal or... He also told me to make sure we could hear each other as I progressed in the cave. Even though we were at least thinking of the possibility of running into trouble, we never really considered the fact that if I got into trouble, he would never be able to rescue me. In fact, no one would be able to get me for many hours. If I were in serious trouble, as in hurt, there's no way anyone would be able to get to me in time. The symbolic of the whole experience, we focused on our goal, not the potential dangers we faced. So far, we dodged the proverbial bullet. So far. Ooh.
I strapped on my gloves and knee pads, grabbed my camera, and began my adventure. I crawled through the passage pictured above, which was about 20 feet long. At the end of the crawl, the cave bent slightly to the right, and I would have to climb up a gentle slope. But then I would be able to stand by the end of the next section of the cave. The next section was about 40 feet long. In addition to having a higher ceiling, the walls were a little wider than the section I just had to crawl through. Both sections were relatively straight. The floor was covered with a type of rock which crunched as I crawled and then walked across it. Okay, so he was basically able to walk at some point. The walls were basically the same as much of Mystery Cave, except pristine. It was obvious no one had been there before me. Upon closer examination of the walls, I found two delicate types of formations. The first resembled several chunks of grated cheese tied together on one end, with the rest of the cheese just flopped down. The second formation was just a tiny strand of rock, thinner than human hair. It looked pretty cool. I found several examples of both kinds of formations.
I think there's like a picture.
Oh, there is a picture, but we're not there yet.
Okay. I was not even through the second section of the cave and I could barely hear B. Cave passages are not very acoustic friendly. I shouted to him that I would go for half an hour, then return. He said that would be fine, and to be careful. I then proceeded to explore some more, and walked nearly upright at this point. I was on the third straight section of the cave when I discovered a crystal formation on the wall to my right. It was in several layers on the wall, resembling clear candle wax that was allowed to melt and drip down the wall. There were several small stalactites-looking formations formed by these crystals, longest about 4 inches in length. There would have been one much longer judging by the size of the base, but it had broken off. I'd like to see if I could locate where it ended, but I couldn't find it.
Ooh. That's a
On the right.
it's a crazy looking picture, dude.
Very interesting.
It's just a bunch of rocks. God damn it.
Rocks are cool. Don't make fun of any rocker, alright?
I'm gonna bedazzle her steering wheel before she kills me.
Yeah, she's gonna give you bad vibes.
The passage continued for another 100 feet or so before the cave opened up a little. It was at the end of the short, straight segment of the cave. At the very end of the segment, the cave made a bend to the left and opened up into a room. Just at the point where the room began, there was a round rock that appeared to be leaning against the wall. This seemed odd, but singular formations are common in caves, so it is by no means unique. I had crawled and stepped over several large chunks of rock that fell down from the ceiling. That's a real bad sign, but okay. But this one was more rounded than others. Once past the rock, the room opened up to a height of 15 feet. It was about 15 feet in width and about 30 feet in length. At the far end of the room, there was another passage leading straight out. As I entered the room, I had an eerie feeling. It was like the old saying that I felt like I was being watched. Once again, the excitement of the new find faded, and the memories of the mysterious side of the cave crept back into my mind. Suddenly, I felt very alone. Fortunately for my ego, I was nearly out of time and had to go back to B before my half an hour was up. I took several pictures of the room. I was going to just get a feel for how the left side of the room on the wall. Wait, hold on. I was going to get a feel for how long the next passage was when something caught my attention. On the left side of the room on the wall, at about eye level, I discovered what appeared to be hieroglyphics. It was a single drawing that appeared to be just part of the rock coloration. It looked very crude representation of oh, wait, hold on. It looked like a very crude representations of people standing below a symbol. I was pumped. This meant there had to be another entrance to this cave. Even if the entrance was closed or blocked, it might be an opportunity to open it back up and get B into the cave. I took another look at the drawing to make sure I could describe it to B, and then I took some pictures to head back to B. And okay, so no pictures there.
And I wish. When I got back to Squeeze, I could barely talk fast and let him know everything I discovered. He was just excited to hear about our newly found treasures. As we debated what our next move would be, I began to send my gear back to the tomb to B. I told him it would be best if we got someone else to come back with me, in case something had happened. He agreed. Once I got all my gear through, I was faced with the wondrous task of having to negotiate Floyd's tomb again. Theoretically, a person should be able to get out of the passage just as he crawled through by simply reversing what he did. If he contorts his body a certain way to get in, he should be able to get in the same position to get out. In practice, this may not prove to be possible or practical. Such was the case with the tomb. I determined in advance that I would attempt to go head first back through Squeeze. I knew I could definitely make it through by going feet first. That would mean backing up all the way through the tomb. That would take a long time and be very exhausting. The only concern in going head first was that when I got to the end of the Squeeze, I'd have to get through the hole we had made without the benefit of being able to twist my body. Oh well, I choose to go head first and deal with the exit when I got to it.
Oh, okay. Bold move, man. Bold move.
Would you rather go fucking feet first?
I'd rather
So
go
I feel like
head first.
Exactly, yeah.
I started into the squeeze, very close to the tight spot. So at least I would have it over with soon. Yeah. It turned out to be tricky getting through. I had to shift my hips to the right a little to get through, but I just kept plunging away at it. My hands were once again up on my side. My head was turned to the right, and I was scooting with my toes. And once again, I was using my head as a gauge to tell when I was at the tight spot. Then, when I was past it, I seemed to get a little tired. I seemed to get tired a little quicker on the way out. Must have been from all the work we had done getting through. I was a little over halfway through when something bizarre happened. I was laying there taking a brief break when I heard a sound within the cave. It was faint, but the distant sound of sliding on rock. It was faint, but the distinct sound of sliding on rock. Okay. My blood froze in its veins. Couldn't move. I just laid there, straining to hear the sound. Nothing. I quickly began to scoot forward to the exit. I didn't mention the sound to B, but I did recall one of our earlier trips when B said he heard the same thing.
Oh boy.
Oh, jeez.
Oh boy.
The task of getting out of her hole turned out to be as painful as I thought. I had to put my arms over my head and force my shoulders through the hole. I definitely left some skin behind as I slipped through. B helped me as I wiggled my upper body out of the passage. Then I could catch myself and ease my lower body out of the tomb. I was out. B and I shook hands and began to load up our gear. I was trying to listen to any sounds coming from the hole, but we were making too much noise gathering our stuff. As much as I looked forward to getting into the passage, it was a relief to get back out. That is pretty much how I feel about caves in general. I love to go in, but I feel good when I get back out.
Oh yeah. Something strange happened with the pictures I took in the new part of the cave. The pictures I took in the passage leading into the large room all turned out just fine. Strangely, none of the pictures in the room turned out. Pictures of the round rock, and more pointing pictures of the hieroglyphics I saw. Pictures taken before and after the room turned out great, but the negatives on the photos taken in the room were clear. Nothing. I remember what the hieroglyphic looked like, so I drew a picture to give you an idea what I saw.
That's a weird looking hieroglyphic.
Yeah. Looks like the Seattle Space Needle.
Here we go.
It's a crude drawing of what I saw, but it's accurate. The first thing I thought when I saw was Blair Witch Project. It kind of had the same feel to it. The symbol was in the center, and several figures that looked like people raising their hands were below this.
Ooh, okay. Ooh, and now we're at April 14th, 2001. Oh, wait, I need to write down the fucking times. It's right.
Start.
48, 30. But I gotta save this picture too.
I think this is about a good time to like pause it because we've been doing this for about an hour and we just finished that like large section.
Yeah, we can stop here for today.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what? I will save this picture for next time then.
Yeah.
Yeah, so join us next time when I think we will presumably finish Ted the Caver.
Who knows? That's also a mystery.
Yeah, mystery from Mystery Cave. This has been Cryptic Corner, brought to you by Ghostbox Studios. If you liked what you listened to and you made it this far, go ahead and leave a like, comment, and maybe even subscribe. We are now on Spotify, and if you guys have,
shit.
yeah,
Are
and
we?
yeah,
Whoa.
If you-
Wow, man.
if you guys have any recommendations, either movies or stories, maybe even games for us to take a look at and review or go over, like, just a synopsis of it, Leave your suggestions down in the comments below. This has been Cryptic Corner, and we'll see y'all next time. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.